Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
And tonight we are talking the new Spider-Man. Spider-Man Far From Home.
That's the wrong.
It's close enough. Well, it's still accepted.
Spider-Man.
Does whatever a spider
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Does whatever a spider can.
Far From Home, which is a title I still don't like. But yeah.
It would make sense if he was in space.
Yeah.
Hey, he's in Europe. I mean,
Yeah.
Spoilers.
I mean,
far
yeah, but
from-
when you've been in the locations that Spider-Man has,
Yeah.
is Europe really that
Bit-
far from home?
Bitch, you've been in space.
That's like
Yeah.
So if he's not that far.
No, he's not far from home at all. But yeah, we'll do a very short non-spoiler section, just to give our impressions, and then we'll jump right in because we got a lot to talk about. But we will spoil all other Marvel movies, MCU movies. So
as you probably would expect.
yeah, so don't blame us. But for Far From Home, now we're not doing any spoilers.
No.
So yeah,
Initial thoughts, really.
Yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home, sequel to Homecoming, but also to Infinity War and
By extension, like
Endgame.
everything else.
Yeah, true, and all other MCU movies.
I think we're safe to say that it's like a bookend, like an epilogue to...
It's supposed to be the end of Phase 3 of the MCU.
And it has elements of feeling very much like an epilogue to Endgame specifically.
It does, but I don't think it deals with that well enough,
if you haven't,
which we'll talk about later.
seen Endgame, certain events in Endgame
Oh,
will be
no,
spoiled
yeah. I think
in
at this
film,
point, yeah.
and also you won't get the most out of this movie unless
Yeah.
you've seen Endgame
Yeah,
and
no.
Infinity War.
This is not a standalone movie by
No.
any stretch. Even if you've seen Homecoming, like
Prior reading
I would
necessary.
Okay.
imagine you could probably watch this movie without seeing Homecoming and just seeing Endgame.
Probably.
It'd work a lot
worked
better.
yeah. I would say so. Like, it's a good MCU movie as a standalone Spider-Man movie. It's just okay.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
Yeah.
at this point in was this the 22nd, 23rd movie? I can't remember how many movies are in the MCU.
We're in the dozens now.
Yeah. They're not just it's a thing. Like, it's a series. Like, you have to watch them all. You're either in or you're out. And we're definitely in, but I feel like I was watching the movie and I'm like, this is a good MCU movie and it's a good episode in the series of the MCU, but as a Spider-Man movie, it's just okay.
Yeah, it doesn't hold a candle to Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh
for
man,
example.
Into the Spider-Verse is a movie that's so good that all other movies look bad in comparison.
Yeah.
It's just like
That's
Like, they keep releasing Marvel movies, but that movie kind of pretty much
you
just
were like,
stays
yeah.
at the top.
Sony's like, we did one thing right.
Yeah. It doesn't forgive all the bad. But
yeah.
anyway, so the cast is good.
Yeah, so the strengths of Far From Home are the supporting cast gets more to do. They're a little bit more fleshed out. There's really great character moments and comedic moments. The whole teen romance, Euro trip, road trip, teen comedy, that's all great.
Yeah.
The action is good, but it's very CGI heavy, which
Yeah.
you knew
And
it was
so
going to be.
I would say some
It
of the
starts-
fights get a little bit...
It starts feeling samey,
Yeah.
and it just feels CGI just feels flat.
It's a little repetitive.
Like, some of the action choreography is really good, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of like...
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You just... see, for me, one of the problems I had with the fight scene specifically,
Yeah.
where there were points in the film where I'm like, he's very clearly just in a soundstage surrounded by green
Yeah.
screen. Like, I want more 90s action where they're running, and he does do some running and jumping, but I wanted him running, being more physical in an actual environment.
Yeah, one of my problems with the MCU version of Spider-Man is that he wears a Spider-Man suit, but then they CGI on top of it the suit. So to make, to make it look, Then he's not, most of the time he's not interacting with a real environment or a set. He's in a CGI environment,
Yeah, actually interacting with CGI things.
So it's a CGI, it's like CGI suit interacting with a CGI world, and so it's just an animated kind of, like things flipping around, and I wouldn't have a problem if his suit was CGI, but he interacted with a real set.
Yeah.
because you can tell the difference. There's a lack of weight.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
practicals were needed.
Yeah, just I know a movie like Spider-Man needs lots of CGI, but you gotta range some of that shit in.
Yeah, I mean, not all the action in a film has to be epic.
Yeah.
Like, you could have
This is another thing with...
stopping a car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing is, one of the things I like about Spider-Man is that he's like a street level hero.
The Hell's Kitchen kind of fighter.
Yeah. He's obviously maybe more powerful than, the Daredevils or the Luke Cages or the Jessica Joneses, but he's still got that kind of he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Exactly. It's in the job description.
Yeah. So you take him out of that, and now he's in the MCU, he's in space, he's fighting these big aliens and all that, and it starts to take away what's kind of special about him, and all the Stark tech and the Stark suit, and he's like becomes like an Iron Man.
Yeah, he's not a Captain America, he's not Iron Man.
Yeah.
I mean,
so like you said, I would like a more simple action scene, like where he, like the PS4 game,
he's fighting some dudes.
Webs a door, pulls off the car door, swings it around, hits a bunch of thugs.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be cool. But instead, we get lots of flippy floppy CGI.
And in the spoiler section, I want to talk a little bit about why it was so ineffective.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll go into the spoiler section now, but I mean, any final thoughts? Like, it's a good movie, but...
Yeah, it's a good movie, but it also... I feel like... I couldn't tell you exactly where, but I feel like more editing was needed. Just a little tighter, they could have made it.
Maybe, yeah.
I liked it. I would go see it. If you enjoy the MC movies, you will enjoy this one. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Definitely. If you liked Homecoming, you like this. If you're, like I said, with the MCU, you're either in or you're out. There are little problems I have with it, which I can't give away because it'll spoil. But the teen comedy elements are the strength. The supporting,
I was
supporting
consistently
characters.
laughing.
Yeah, supporting characters
so
are the
awkward.
strength. Yeah, so many good yeah. That's where that's the core. Like that's the best part of the movie.
Definitely.
The sci-fi stuff, the action, it's fine, but it's not great.
It's not Black Panther level bad.
Oh no, it's not that. Not that bad. No.
It's also not like it's not Doctor Strange level good. I thought Doctor Strange had pretty decent CGI.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an MCU movie which had outstandingly good CGI. I can't really think of one because they all have some pretty shoddy CGI in parts.
It's like Infinity War has great CGI, but also has bad CGI. So it's kind of like
looking at you, Mark Ruffalo,
the bobblehead.
War Machine bobblehead. But yeah, it's like at this point you're either in or out. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's a good movie, but has, like all the MCU, has a little bit of problems. And some of these problems are bigger than others, which we'll talk about. Some of them are little nitpicks.
But if you're a fan of these movies, if you watch these movies, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's not a good entry point to Spider-Man or the MCU.
No, and it's I think similar with Homecoming. It's a better comedy, it's a better teen movie than it is an action or sci-fi movie,
All right, moving into spoilers.
Yes, major spoiler warning for Spider-Man Far From Home. If you haven't seen Far From Home, the new Spider-Man movie, we're doing full spoilers, and we're also going to full spoiler Endgame and all the other MCU movies. So you've been warned.
So I guess to introduce, our spoiler section, we'll quickly overview the plot.
Yeah.
We'll keep it brief, because we don't want to spoil too much of the intricacies.
Well, yeah.
So basically, the blip was reversed.
We have to. They now officially call.
Yeah, they now officially call
the time. Yeah, the snap.
The snap.
And the time from when the snap happened to when everyone returns is called the blip.
Yeah, so we call it the snap. Yeah. They call it the blip.
Yeah.
But I think the blip is referred to as the time length they consciously perceived from being dead and being brought back to life. Yeah. They were blipped.
They were blipped out of
the snap was what killed everyone. That period of time is the blip.
But they also use it as I was blipped away.
Yeah.
But because they don't know about the snap. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the blip is both the disappearing and the time. The kind of
synonymous
time that
with
was
the
missing.
snap.
Yeah. Because, half of people on Earth disappeared, and then 5 years later they just came back and they didn't really perceive that missing time, but all their friends and relatives who were left perceived that had grown up and whatever. I like that there's that kid at the start, he's like, my little brother is older than me now, and Betty's like, yeah, it's math, and he's just like, just doesn't get it, like he's just blank face. That opening in
That was
memoriam.
Oh, I was laughing.
So good.
I laughed. I thought, is this like legit?
Getty Images?
Yeah.
So good. And you can see the boom mic going in and out of the shot. So good.
I wish we had school TV, like high school.
I know.
Oh no,
programs.
it would be a disaster.
It'd be a what do they call it? There's a word for like a fantastic disaster.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. So the movie starts to deal with the blip a little bit.
Like the first
intro.
few minutes,
Yeah.
they deal with the death of Tony Stark, his
And Cap.
and Captain America,
And
but
Black Widow.
Even though he technically didn't die.
well, I think
Yeah, but they didn't
'cause
know that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he just retired. Yeah.
So, but like, there's all these Tony Stark memorials and graffiti and like all these, his face is plastered everywhere, and people are trying to get back to normal.
Which is also a good motif through the movie too.
yeah, especially for Peter.
Yeah.
Because that's his mentor. But yeah, people are trying to get back to normal. They're trying to reintegrate that missing 5 years with people who were there because they were disappeared. And then the movie just doesn't deal with any of that.
Yeah, like this is one of my major problems with the movie.
I feel like
if I have major problems.
I know
with
it's a
the film.
Spider-Man movie, and they don't really want to get dark and deep dive
Yeah,
into
but
the whole.
they should have.
But I feel like they could have weaved it in the story, and
'Cause
it would have made much more sense.
there'd be a lot of grief going on everywhere they visit.
yeah,
Also PTSD. I think like Peter, for example, he went through some pretty traumatic stuff. Not only in like really up to the snap.
Yeah.
It was pretty. He's only a young boy.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I know the actor's a little older, but you know.
Well, yeah, his character's like 16.
Yeah. So I'm like, he went through some pretty traumatic stuff, and not only that, even in Homecoming.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't. I would have liked to see a more natural reaction to the trauma he's faced. I know in the comics that's like every day. No one really handles. No one in the comics, at least in the originals, handled trauma. They pushed that shit down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I think that now that we're in 2019 and in comics there is PTSD and all this, I think it'd be interesting to see how Peter was affected.
I mean, they've dealt with it before. Like even Tony had PTSD in Iron Man 3 because of the
they
events
never made
of
an Iron Man 3, but yes, you're correct.
Piss off! Iron Man
That's
3
a
is so
good
good.
movie,
It's
though.
so good.
But yeah, no,
Just because you didn't like what they did
No,
to the
yeah,
man.
Even Thor.
Oh, that's true. Thor had amazing depression.
Fat Thor, like they dealt with it before. This movie, like they deal with the fact that Peter's mentor, Tony Stark, is gone and that, he kind of, looking for guidance. But other than that, they don't really deal with the larger implications.
I want like Peter, like how does he feel about being hit in the head so many times? Like what do you think about it?
Turn it into Daredevil now. I think we need some more. This needs more Catholic guilt. You know what this movie needs? More Catholic guilt.
Like they could.
More concussions.
No, but like you know what I mean. Like I want him to wake up in a cold sweat, like Tony Stark kind of.
Actually, if they more mirrored the Tony Stark, PTSD, like I mean,
he doesn't necessarily have to be like an aging wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm not,
and they don't have to. Yeah, it doesn't have to be super dark. It's just it would be nice to see that throughout the movie and how he deals with that and how he gets over that, and how Mysterio betrays that. Because I think one of my problems with the movie is that Mysterio becomes his new father figure, and I really like to have that rooftop talk.
Yeah.
I thought that's really good. But then he betrays him, and it's just kind of like, it's a typical villain betrayal, and I didn't feel like I was betrayed. I didn't feel sad for Peter. I was just kind of like,
It would have been a better payoff if Mysterio wasn't so evil. Like, if he was a bad guy, but
Peter had to more reluctantly take him down.
His big crime was a betrayal. Maybe not at the Earth cataclysmic level, but if it was, I have to stop Mysterio, I don't want to because I like him.
Yeah.
But I have to because I am Spider-Man.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? He has to separate Peter Parker from... what is that quote? Heavy lies the head that wears the crown.
Wears the crown, yeah.
He has to deal with, I'm the one who's here. I'm the hero now.
Yeah.
So I have
with
to put aside my fear.
With great power comes great responsibility.
No, that could have been such an excellent theme because there are no Avengers.
Because there's no Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
They haven't, and they don't want to repeat themselves from the previous movies.
Mysterio could fill those shoes.
Yeah, this movie would have been perfect to start bringing up those themes.
Yeah, like they started that theme with Iron Man, but he didn't. Tony Stark wasn't like a proper father figure in a way.
Well, yeah, he was, but like he's gone, and that's kind of, there's a vacuum.
So Mysterio could perfectly kind of replace that role, only to, as you said, portray him in that way.
Yeah, I feel like the kind of through line, and like while you're dealing with the death of your mentor and the hero of the world, in parallel to that, as you're doing that, you also have to deal with the blip.
Yeah.
But there's like first few minutes, they make a joke about the blip, they explain what happened, then it's ignored. And then you get a little bit of my mentor's dead, and I have to fill his shoes, and Mysterio's filling his shoes. But then it just becomes lots of CGI nonsense.
Yeah.
And then the end.
Get rid of the CG. You know, like, I'd love a more... Again, but the problem is, people expect that from a superhero movie.
Yeah.
I just want a drama set in the MCU.
One of my problems with the movie, and you know, even when I saw the trailers, I had this problem. The big elemental monsters, they look boring. They all look the same. They're just CGI smashy things. There's no like really good personal fight with a villain in the movie. The more interesting fights are where Mysterio has his illusions, and he tricks Peter into thinking he's in these kind of weird dark hall of mirror.
That would have been that could be a great hand-to-hand combat kind of moment.
Exactly.
How cool would it have been if bring up that PTSD sort of theme that we could have in the movie, where Mysterio is making Spider-Man think he's being attacked on the battlefield again.
No, but because Peter Parker would tell Mysterio his deepest fears or whatever, and Mysterio in the climactic battle could use his illusions to throw that on Peter, so Peter has to overcome these things and grow.
Peter kind of breaking out of the illusion should have been more of a personal, emotional journey, triumph, rather than just a physical. I'm breaking out of this CGI nonsense, and
they also could use more practical for that whole thing.
Like the most interesting kind of action scenes, if you can call them that, are the illusions, but they're also just flat, boring CGI.
Like, I don't understand why. I get that it's easier to use CG.
It's just easy.
It's probably just as expensive to have a practical set. But like, why does I don't understand why, for the benefit of the film, they didn't have the illusions set in practical rooms?
It's just much easier to just animate it. That way they can have complete control of everything. They don't have to worry about hiring, like
builders
when the stack, when the stack, you know how there's all the Spider-Man clones and they're all stacks on.
Oh yeah.
Like you'd have to hire a bunch of guys and you'd have to shoot it so it doesn't look silly, Instead they just animate it and it looks bad. It's interesting, but it doesn't look good.
It's also kind of like, why is he afraid of spider guys? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean that's actually one of the things I think would have been interesting is if Peter had to fight himself, but instead of just being a CGI nonsense stacks on, it's two physical actors like fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he figures out that it's Mysterio tricking him, and then figures out a way to break out of it. It's much more, much more, physical, interesting, but also emotionally more powerful.
Yeah, it'd also be cool for Robert Downey Jr. to make a cameo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I like how the Iron Man suit crawls out of the grave, but it's just CGI crap.
But it'd be cool if like Robert Downey Jr. was there berating him, like trying to make him feel bad, and he has to kind of like see through it.
That would be cool too. If
like you
Spider-Man,
kid, you're not good enough.
If Spider-Man had to fight Iron Man, and he was like fighting his mentor, and Tony Stark was berating him, like, you let me die, this, that, the other. Even though I know Mysterio doesn't know all the details of what happened, but there's something vague enough that it makes sense.
You could also weave into the thing that it's also his imagination. Well, no, maybe fumes from whatever
like fear gas.
Yeah, but Scarecrow.
Yeah, I was watching it. I'm like, this is just Scarecrow now. But like I feel like there needs to be more that personal, emotional journey and that impact, more practical elements. But also one of my problems is like Spider-Man never gets a really good fight with Mysterio because Mysterio's whole thing is illusions and trickery.
He's never in the
and
fight
special
to begin
effects.
with.
He's never, which makes 110% sense for his character. Like at the end of the day, he's a bit of a coward.
Yeah,
but it's not visually interesting when the climactic battle of your film is Spider-Man swinging around, blowing up drones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's well choreographed and, the CGI is quote unquote good, but it's just kind of flat, and there's no emotional because, he's not fighting any personal villain. He's not fighting any inner demon. He's fighting a bunch of fighting robots.
Sounds boring.
Yeah, you need that moment where he gets to Mysterio and they have a fisticuffs. But because it doesn't make sense for Mysterio's character, they don't do it. But I think it needed that somehow, or it needed an illusion to
it would have been
replicate that.
It would have been funny if Mysterio sent one of his henchmen to fight Spider-Man. And it's an illusion. And it's just a guy being like one of his just random henchmen. It's like fighting Spider-Man.
Mysterio hires a bunch of like muscly, mercenaries,
and Spider-Man villains.
And then he uses his hologram technology to make them look like Mysterio. So he has to fight.
He's fighting five Mysterio guys.
Even his rogues gallery. Like a whole bunch of Spidey villains.
That would be funny. But then, because they haven't really introduced anyone except for Vulture.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, who else? Yeah. So, that would have been better. Multiple, because, so many times in the comics and the cartoons and stuff, there's, multiple Mysterios, and Spider-Man has to figure out which one's real.
They could have done that.
They could have done that.
That would be reasonably cheap and effective.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems I did have, just a small gripe, I suppose, is how coincidentally all of his classmates escaped the blip pretty much.
See, I
understand. I understand.
I understand why they did it, but if they're going to do that, they need to explore. They still need to. They still can't ignore the blip, which is what they do.
It would have been much more interesting. Let's take Flash, for example. A character who famously doesn't like Peter Parker but loves Spider-Man.
Oh, Flash Thompson. Yeah.
Flash. And it would have been much more interesting to see him escape the blip and maybe get super depressed because Spider-Man's gone. And it's like...
That would be interesting. Because they can't age the actors. I mean, they can age the actors.
It doesn't have to, it's only 5 years and he's young. So it could
give him a beard.
Just give him a bit of a beard.
That would be, I guess, and because this version of Flash, it doesn't really make... If it was the classic version of Flash, it would have made so much sense.
Yeah.
But because this is like the hipster
weird
kind of
version.
There's the hipster 2019
the people
version.
who don't understand the comics version.
Yeah.
But they could have done something like that. Age one of his classmates up and have that emotional sort of...
then he wouldn't be in school and he wouldn't be tormenting Peter.
Yeah, but he'd still be in the neighborhood.
But it would be cool, if they did
Yeah, but I feel
Flash.
like it's a little bit of a cop-out to have all the class
all of them,
magically escape.
There is the one kid, Brad, who, but they just... It's funny. It's a good joke, but they don't deal with the psychological or emotional toll.
Yeah.
Aunt May has her support homeless shelter
and
thing.
She lost her house or something. That was an interesting little bit.
Yeah, but that's kind of like a background kind of thing. They don't explore that at all.
And she's still super hot, man.
Hottie May? Is that what Stark calls her?
Yeah.
What did you say, Callum? Happy is punching above his weight?
He's punching well above his weight.
Yeah, he's out of his league.
So in this film, I guess this is a specific spoiler for the relationship between Happy and May. It turns out that Happy believes he's in a relationship with May. May believes it's a one-off kind of short-term deal.
A summer fling.
Now, because May is, of course, single and Happy has means, in a way, he kind of has means. I personally believe she's taking advantage of Happy's good nature. Because Happy's probably... No, think about it.
You're thinking this is much more sinister than it really
No.
is.
Think about it this way. Happy's probably a lonely guy.
Yeah.
Right? He used to work long hours for Stark. As far as I'm aware in the MCU, he never had love. He doesn't have a family. Tony Stark was his family, right? That kind of... The Pepper Potts is probably the closest he's got to a family member in the MCU. Here comes Aunt May. She's not doing too well.
So you're saying she's leading him along?
She a gold digger?
No. So they are in a relationship of sorts. That's true. But she doesn't want it to be a long-term thing. He wants to settle down. So I believe, she a gold digger.
You're overanalyzing this.
I'm just pleased for Happy, man.
Yeah, all that stuff was hilarious.
Gives us hope.
When he's eating the salad and she's trying to give him Peter on the phone, he's like, no. It's like, I'm busy doing paperwork.
And it's like, we need to have a serious talk about your relationship with my aunt.
So good.
Good on you, Happy.
Is it Jon Favreau?
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
But all the supporting character stuff is all really strong. You know, all the Ned and Betty relationship comedy, teen comedy stuff, that's hilarious. You know, Peter and MJ, all really good. Martin Starr as the teacher, you know, hilarious.
He's so funny,
so good. JB Smoove.
He was also one of my one of my favorites.
Yeah, like it's
everything's witchcraft, man.
Yeah, witchcraft,
witches.
Witches. As a scientist,
did you see the little sort of the movie detail? I guess little Easter egg when he puts on the glasses.
The Stark glasses.
The Stark glasses, and he sees.
It says like history of witchcraft.
He has a history of witchcraft.
Yeah, like that. That's the strength of the movie. Is that kind of the character interactions, the banter.
Dimitri, the bus driver who doesn't say anything. He just kind of stares at everyone.
I feel like they could have maybe upped the banter a bit more, made it a bit more punchy, you know. But yeah, that's the strength. That's the strength that when they get to the kind of action and stuff, it's just kind of like whatever.
So it's like Petey's really excited to go on this trip.
They go on this science club trip to Europe, and they get to Venice first, and Nick Fury.
And there's an issue.
Let's say he kidnaps Peter to make it easy. You know, he forces Peter to come to their shield base or whatever it's called now.
A secret bunker.
Yeah, and he's like, there are these elemental beings, earth, water, wind, fire, big monsters that are attacking the world.
Kind of typical.
From another dimension. And this man, Quentin Beck, who's like the hero from his universe, he's come across. See, in the I might be misremembering, but in the trailer Nick Fury says Mysterio the snap caused a rift, and that he came through from the other dimension. In the movie, I don't think they actually say that line. They just say he's from another dimension.
No, they say the snap caused that. They do in the
do they say in the film? Because I don't remember that.
They have like a little graphic of like a planet. And when the snap happened, it was like a wave.
Oh, okay.
And it caused I guess Mysterio came from another dimension.
Yeah, okay.
Through the snap.
Because I remember in the trailer, but watching the movie, I was like, I don't remember them saying it.
I think they did.
Okay.
I might be. I might be.
I can't remember, but I wouldn't be surprised. It happens.
But if they did cut it from the movie, they need to put that shit back in. No, even though everyone who watches the MCU knows about it, it's like they need that.
I'm kind of important exposition.
I think I remember seeing it.
Okay, yeah.
I might be wrong,
but anyway, yeah.
But so Mysterio's from another dimension.
Yeah.
Now, if he's a fraud, he's a fraud.
Yeah.
But
that's his whole thing.
It would be really disappointing if it turns out that he wasn't really from... I'd like the idea that he's a fraud from another dimension.
No, it doesn't make any sense, especially when it's revealed that he was from that. I want it to be real, man.
Because that brings in other possibilities.
It's the MCU that the multiverse is definitely a thing. It's just when are we going to see it? That's the question. And Spider-Verse did so well with it.
Yeah, you know. I reckon we'll see a multiverse in the next Doctor Strange, potentially.
Yeah.
That's true.
If there's any property which can incorporate the multiverse, it's a Doctor Strange movie.
True. I mean, yeah, any of the MCU you could,
chuck
it in.
Yeah, I just remembered. No, never mind. He worked for Tony Stark, so he could.
That's what I'm saying. Is when it's revealed that he's faking it, like he worked for Tony Stark in that universe. So yeah, like Mysterio's pretending to fight these elementals, and he's this big hero
all over Europe.
Yeah, all over Europe, and Nick Fury deliberately leads Peter's school trip to cities in Europe that are going to be attacked so that Spider-Man can be there.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. They get upgraded quite regularly.
No. I think we should also be honest with the audience. It's not Spider-Man, it's Night Monkey.
Night Monkey, yes.
So there's a different guy. A new character introduced to this film. And not in the comics.
Yeah.
But still pretty cool.
Because I remember when the trailer came out and I was like, he's wearing this kind of black stealth suit. And I was like, why is he wearing that? It doesn't make any sense for him fighting a big monster. It's basically just so he can fight monsters in Europe while also being Peter Parker in Europe, and no one will put two and two together. But they end up doing that anyway. So it's just, I don't know, this kind of a, it's a thing. Like they could have done any kind of suit, a cooler suit, but it's just a black kind of thing.
It's a standard suit. It's fine.
Yeah.
And the battles, I think we've already gone over this. The battle's underwhelming.
See, I think one of my problems is because Mysterio is building himself up as the big hero, Spider-Man becomes the secondary hero. And again, it makes sense, but he just becomes underwhelming. And because he's wearing the black suit, it's like you're not seeing Spider-Man in action.
I think it's what you said before. It works alright as a Marvel movie, not so great as a Spider-Man movie.
It's not a great Spider-Man
because
movie.
it's like
it's a good MCU addition.
It's like, yeah, sure,
or
Peter Parker's
expansion.
the main character, but he often takes a back seat in the action.
Exactly. And then when he does eventually figure out Mysterio's plan, he ends up fighting drones.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
So like I think they needed more Spider-Man action, more grounded kind of.
Yeah, grounded, exactly.
Action.
Like that's like we said, if you replace a large chunk of the story with that kind of the mentor kind of plot line, where a lot of the story is Peter coming to grips with what happened and also finding a new mentor in Mysterio. A lot of that can be replaced with, as we said, him fighting illusions.
Yeah.
Even, as you said, a fisticuff situation.
While going through PTSD and while trying to fit back into a world that's 5 years
Exactly.
ahead.
All the differences.
Plus, you lay the illusions on him, and he's going to have a breakdown, So
exactly.
This could have been the really dark, like Spider-Man 2, where he quits Spider-Man, the Raimi Spider-Man 2, where he quits being Spider-Man. This could have been kind of that, like the dark version. He loses faith in himself, and
he needs to get his Peter Tinkle back.
Yes,
like
Peter Tingle. He needs that. That's another thing, because they're doing this thing where the spider sense isn't really a thing in this version, and then this movie they start to introduce it.
It's kind of hinted at.
Yeah, but I think they need to maybe work on that a bit more.
Yeah,
because it's like there's like they, Aunt May's like calls it the Peter Tingle. He's like, don't call it that. And then I think there's one bit in Venice or whatever where he senses something. And then there's the bit at the end where he's in the illusion, and he's like, "You can't trick me anymore."
He's doing the Daredevil whole fight.
Yeah, I think they need to lay that on a little bit thicker.
It needs to be a part of him. I like the idea.
Like it needs to be a heroic moment where he realizes he can sense that he's in an illusion, and he can sense where the drones are, and it's like everything goes slow motion. Not necessarily, but you know what I mean. Instead, in the movie, he's just like CGI flip.
Yeah.
The end. There's no like good. Homecoming. I had this problem too. There's no good Raimi-esque heroic moments.
There is that bit where he kind of lifts himself out of the rubble in Homecoming.
Yeah, but that bit was like super cheesy. Yeah, but not that the Raimi movies weren't cheesy.
No,
but like it was a bit too like where he sees his reflection. Like they should. Yeah.
So in all good Marvel comics, and some DC comics, there's always a point where the hero loses their powers.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that, and this is
is the perfect movie for
this
that.
is not how the MCU handled it. But in an ideal situation, either Peter would have had his spider sense from the get-go, and then lost it after the snap.
Yeah.
PTSD's keeping him like, he's like all nervous all the time.
Exactly.
And the Peter Tingle isn't working.
Like Spider-Man
or
2,
he loses most of his powers, and he doesn't get them back until he can get over the mental blocks that he's got. So this is not only about him being in Europe, being far from home and having to deal with this.
Yeah.
It's also about him rediscovering what it means to be a hero.
To be Spider-Man. And also, in the process, realizing that he can't fill the shoes of Iron Man like the world wants him to, but he can be...
He can fill the little Spidey bits.
He can be the best version of Spider-Man that he can be. One of the problems I have with the MCU version, Homecoming and of Spider-Man is like, he's Spider-Man, but he's a Stark suit Spider-Man. He's got all the gadgets. He's got all the upgrades.
He's a high-tech Spider-Man.
Which is okay, but it takes away from that ground level.
Because he's a smart kid.
Yeah, but it takes away from that ground level, just using his wits and his abilities and his webs.
I thought,
acrobatics.
And there's one scene in London where he's fighting the new monstrosity that we know is really Mysterio, where he looks at like, I saw some little broken sign, and there's like a part of a drone.
Oh yeah,
and I was like,
the Tower Bridge sign.
I'm like, can we please have a scene almost reminiscent of Iron Man 1 where he's repurposing technology and he's building himself like a tool?
Yeah, I like that bit where he grabs the Tower Bridge sign as the shield, and like it's kind of a homemade kind of
like
shield.
It would have been so cool to have like a reference to Iron Man 1 where he has to build himself a tool.
That would be interesting too. Then he's like we said, like he has to fill the shoes of Iron Man. The only way he can do that is to break himself down and build himself up again.
Yeah, exactly. And it could have been like, yes, he's sort of, he's rising above like all these issues. Yeah, exactly. He's meeting sort of that Iron Man level.
Iron Man had to become Iron Man by getting out of that cave. Otherwise, he would have been a rich douchebag the rest of his life. I mean, he was a rich douchebag the rest of his life, but you know what I mean. You know, like he had to be humbled in a certain way.
Yeah,
and Peter needed.
He needed that moment to rise to his superhero sort
Tony
of.
Stark only had his wits. He didn't have his money in the cave. He didn't have
he didn't have his
bodyguards.
Knowledge. Yeah.
The only thing he had was his wits.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man needs that kind of. Yeah. All I've got is my two hands. Exactly. And I have to stop.
That's why. Yeah. That's why I was hoping. You know, I mean, I like the bit where he 3D prints the new suit, and you know, but I was like, it would be cool if he went back to just a prototype early version of the suit that just has web shooters, and that's about it. Yeah. You know, like
a classic kind of look.
My favorite part of this movie is the end credits, the first end credits scene where Peter is swinging through New York and is texting MJ. That is the most quintessential Spider-Man thing.
And she's like, don't text and swing.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the PS4 game, which is so good. And it's just like him swinging through New York, you know, and then he takes her for a swing and she's freaking out. Like that's great.
That's classic Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm watching that scene and I'm like, do we need it in Europe? No.
That's the thing. Like, all the locations are really nice. You got Venice, you got London, you got Prague, you got Berlin. But it's like, really, at the end of the day, Spider-Man's really in his element in New York. You know, that street level hero that we keep talking about. Like, it's more fun to watch him web a fire hydrant, pull it off, swing it around, and hit Kingpin in the head than it is to...
If they do Kingpin, should they bring back Vincent D'Onofrio?
I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio is
He's
amazing.
Perfect Kingpin.
Like, amazing.
He's my favourite Kingpin.
He's like... See, the problem is he's reached iconic status now for
but
Kingpin.
Like, that version of Kingpin is very Netflix version, whereas the MCU is very non... You know, it's like we've been saying, they're not even trying to deal with any of these themes. So, I feel like... You know, like, I love the Kingpin in Spider-Verse, where he's like a big block.
Yeah, that's not practical for a real movie.
But like, that's what I feel like, that version of Kingpin would fit better into the MCU, like a really, really, really big guy. Like, but also you don't want to use CGI because then that'll look weird. Yeah. So maybe like getting a guy who's really big, but then like digitally maybe.
You seen that
even
Kanye West music video with the two block shapes?
Just have him wear a block jacket.
Have him in like a big square foam suit. You're like walking around.
But yeah, like that's what's cool about Spider-Man, is that kind of action. But because this is MCU, he has to fight.
There were no car doors.
Yeah, what Mysterio calls, I think, the Avengers level threat. Like there has. In this version of Spider-Man, there has to be a big CGI alien or monster, you know, destroying the whole city, and Spider-Man has to use all these Stark gadgets to defeat it. But that's not what's interesting about Spider-Man. Spider-Man's about the kind of that sort of smaller scale.
The petty thug can be just as interesting. Like, you look at Batman comics. Most Batman comics aren't Avengers level threats. Yeah. I know Spider-Man and Batman are very different. Yeah. But they're also very similar.
But they're very, very similar, yeah.
So, like, you need that kind of,
grounded,
micro kind of threat. Because it's not the threat which makes a good movie. It's the way it's told, and it's the characters. Yeah. And I think that's what this film doesn't have. It's too busy showing us nice set pieces. Yeah. And having as CGI level Avengers threats, CGI Avengers level threats. Sorry, and like it's kind of boring. Yeah, just in the same way that
Homecoming, I guess, had action wasn't great, but I guess it was smaller scale than some of the other Avengers movies. But then he was in Infinity War and Endgame, which is the big kind of CGI Avengers scale action. I think this would have been a good chance to bring it back down smaller scale again, and also maybe deliberately contrast that.
The smaller scale would help explore the other themes of grief, and because it can be more dynamics with his home life. Yeah,
and also, you know, when Nick Fury says, "Bitch, please, you've been to space," that could have held more meaning. Yeah, like, I've been to space. I got, you know, Tony Stark died. It was traumatic from me. Yeah. Now I'm trying to deal with this smaller threat, and it's gonna destroy me. It's
Yeah,
smaller,
exactly. Like-
but I'm the only Avenger left.
And it's also, the threat's not always something you can handle with your hands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, well, I was in space, but I also had Thor, I
Yeah.
had Iron Man.
Exactly.
Now it's just me, and
Yeah.
I'm not that strong.
Yeah, which I guess is why he gives the Edith glasses to Mysterio, because he's like, you're the one to take over. But yeah, they don't really explore that feeling, that inadequate feeling that Peter has. That there's no... See, I think this is the problem with a lot of MCU movies. The comedy is good, the characters are funny, but when it gets to the really emotional core...
It should have been...
They just play it off, or they do it too quickly.
Like, I think we've discussed this before. I think the problem is that might feel risky for the studio.
Yeah, but...
You don't want to make people... And again,
Yeah.
I don't agree with this sentiment, but I think that they don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. They don't want to make people feel... It's okay to feel upset or feel emotional when you reach the emotional climax.
Yeah.
But to have an emotional thread through all sections of the film...
Yeah.
Probably might be a bit too much for what they consider to be a popcorn film.
Like, it's definitely that kind of business-minded decision, but I think you can explore it more without going into super depressing Netflix Marvel show territory.
Do you think the average person who goes to see this film who doesn't really care, I think they would prefer CG and ha-has.
Oh, definitely.
Over...
We'd prefer a movie of struggles, depression in the pit.
No, but like you can, like my point is, you can have both.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's
a good superhero movie will have both.
Especially when you're bookending all of these films.
Especially because this is supposed to be the end of Phase 3.
The capstone,
And I don't think it does a good job of ending Phase 3.
Yeah, like they should have kept it in New York, as we said.
Yeah.
Have it a smaller scale. That way you can deal with all the relationship drama or the grief PTSD side. And have it at a small level threat where Spidey can fight some dudes in the street.
Well, why not? Yeah, or
send us a check.
Exactly. But also having
I don't think they'd agree with our assessment.
No. But like having Mysterio just attack New York, that's fine. Like, why go? Like, I know they wanted that road trip, Euro trip element, which is fine. But yeah, it takes away from that interesting thing that Spider-Man is. But yeah, I did mention the first end credits scene, which should, as Nathan
this was
saying before the show,
one of my main disappointments with this movie. Now, all the Marvel movies have stingers. You stick around, but when we finished the film and we were waiting for the stinger, people left, which they should know better.
Look, every time we review a superhero movie, I'm just like, stay.
At least half of the cinema left before the first stinger.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and it's even more disappointing because this stinger really should not have been a stinger.
That's actually true. They missed out on a pretty important.
I think a lot of MCU movies now, like they feel like they need that mid-credit stinger. So they maybe cut off a certain section, whereas it's like...
And traditionally, what should a stinger be? It should be a little cameo, like
just
a little
an
Easter egg, or a little clue that shows you where we might be going.
See, at this point in the MCU, like, it's so interconnected that I understand they want to leave you with maybe a bigger chunk than just Easter egg. Like, they want to lead you into the next film. They want to expand upon the world.
Yeah, like a little clue's fine, but this stinger, woo boy.
Yeah. But I think this one where Peter is, swinging through New York, it's the best part of the movie, and it's like the end credits stinger, or mid credits stinger. And he like takes MJ for a swing, puts her down, and he's like it's not Times Square, but it's like, it's one of those big jumbotron
big
TV screens on the side of a building. And J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
He's the only choice, right?
Comes back. I was just like, oh!
Also, it should be noted, it's also like an InfoWars version.
Yeah, I like that too, where he's like, now he's like a TV person.
Theorist, kind of crazy guy.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't necessarily like how there's a thread of the movie of fake news. I feel like it deals with it somewhat.
We didn't talk about that as well. Like, there's this whole like
don't believe what you see.
Yeah, what does Mysterio say? I'm the only truth or something.
Yeah, he says I am the only truth, and he also says people will believe what I tell them to believe or what I make them believe.
Yeah, I don't. Again, like, I like all that stuff, but they need to explore that a bit more.
Yeah, it's empty.
Yeah,
it feels empty. But I think Nathan was saying that maybe they push the message of because multiple characters also don't believe what you read. There's like this whole theme of quotations as well as visual storytelling. Like the whole thing about fake news, because that's something we deal with now in this current zeitgeist we live in, is fake
Especially
news.
being an American movie, I feel like they're saying, don't trust the papers, don't trust what you read in the news. So I'm like, that almost feels a little bit harmful of a message at the moment.
It's a little Trumpian, but I think
it's something that our favorite orange president says a lot.
The message that
but I think they're coming up from the opposite way.
But I think that it kind of, you know how speedometer when you get to the top, it kind of just ticks around.
Well, no, they don't do that at all.
No. I think what Nathan's trying to say is
there's a danger of
the
alternative facts.
The alternative facts kind of messaging as presented by Mysterio.
Yeah.
It kind of and the quotes from the characters who say, "Oh, don't believe what you read."
It kind of gets a bit muddy.
Yeah, so
it's not as clear cut.
They keep using that line of messaging throughout the film without exploring it further than Mysterio's context.
Yeah.
So
I just didn't like that little side of it.
Like I can understand for Mysterio's character, it's perfect sense. It's classic comic book Mysterio. He makes you
don't
see
believe
things.
what you see because illusions and stuff.
But other characters continue this subtext, and they don't explore it further than just being edgy.
Yeah.
So I think that it's kind of...
Yeah, they need to explore it more and maybe, make it a bit more clear that they're coming from the objective truth is the objective truth.
That's exactly right. They don't really say that. It's just kind of, don't believe anything.
I think that would have been a great moment for Peter as well, to not just say, you can't trick me anymore, and to actually say, like...
You can't change what's real.
Yeah, exactly. You can't change what's the truth. There is an objective truth. You're the bad guy. You're misleading everyone in the world. But I can see through your bullshit, and I will be the new quote unquote Iron Man who
that would have been a good message.
Who punches through the wool you've pulled over everyone's eyes. But that would have been much more powerful, which is what I wanted from the end of the movie instead of punching drones.
That's what I agree with.
They don't really do that. They kind of Peter does that at the end using the Peter Tingle.
Yeah,
but
like I said, need that heroic moment. Yeah,
but the other characters and their way of looking at the notion of truth. That's kind of left in Europe. It's like lots of little throwaway lines and key moments.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we're trying to get at when I say that.
Yeah.
Again, from Mysterio's character, it's perfect sense.
Yeah. So exactly, like there are a lot of things in this movie that I have problems with that make sense because of Mysterio's character, but I feel like could have been handled a bit better. Yeah. Just for the emotional impact and the practical action filmmaking aspect of it. You know, like they could have done a lot better with it, even though you can just argue, but it's Mysterio's character.
But see, the movie we're talking about will be a much slower film. Not a much slower film, but it would take its time to work through these things, which is not necessarily what these people at the top
but
want.
Like I say, you can have that balance. You can still have the end scene where Peter's, fighting Mysterio, but instead of him just saying, you can't trick me anymore and punching invisible drones, there's a more slow, heroic build-up to that.
Exactly.
Like it's still the same scene, it's just done better. And then, therefore, it makes the whole message of the movie more clear and it makes it more emotionally powerful.
Definitely.
So you can, it might be a little bit slower, but you don't. You don't have to do a really slow.
Which I think goes back to our earlier point about maybe the editing. Could have been a little tighter.
Yeah, true.
Back to the stinger.
If you said it, it in New York, then that way you refocus it. And you don't have to be globe hopping all the time.
That saves time. That way, let's say all the traveling bus scenes. Kind of you can.
Yeah,
replace
I really don't like that scene where on the tour bus and he accidentally almost kills one of his rival students with the drone. And
he punches Flash out.
That was good.
That was a good scene.
Accidentally,
but a more intimate movie is what we wanted.
Yeah. But it's I guess it all comes back to what we always say. It's the Logan argument. People will respond if you make a more intimate, a more personal, a more practical, grounded action superhero movie. People respond to that. Like there's definitely the audience wants just a safe popcorn movie, but if you make a really good sort of more personal, grounded film,
it's just good storytelling.
You'll still get that good response.
Back to the stinger, the most shocking part of the movie.
Yeah. So he sees J. Jonah on the big screen, and he's like this InfoWars, like kind of
Alex Jones type.
Yeah, fake news kind of like vlog isn't the right word, but you know.
Yeah, it's like an online TV show, kind of.
And he's
it's not explained.
like a political commentator. Yeah. And he's just like, Mysterio was this, Mysterio was the greatest hero of our generation, and he was killed by Spider-Man.
They edited footage to make it look like Spider-Man killed in cold blood.
Well, it's not made clear if Mysterio had faked footage.
I'm pretty sure this was Mysterio's contingency plan.
Yeah, there's a guy working on the footage in another location, like editing.
And that guy, he pulls out like a USB with all of the technology. So I'm sure they'll bring that up in a later film. But like, so Mysterio, I guess, is like, if Spider-Man's going to kill me, I'm going to make sure to pull you down with me. We're both going down together. So he assumedly leaks the footage to the media where he makes it look like Spider-Man was running all the drones
and murdered
and tried to murder everyone in London, and that Mysterio was trying to stop him, and Spider-Man murdered Mysterio. And then Mysterio reveals Spider-Man's true identity as Peter Parker
and
the whole world.
And we get this close from hearing Petey drop an F-bomb.
Yeah, well, that's the same as the end of Homecoming, where Aunt May finds out. And it's the same ending, but this is much more... this is a larger scale.
Let's this out of the main film.
Yeah.
For context, when Peter unmasks himself in the comics, it's in the original Civil War run.
Yeah.
He comes out and he goes like, "I'm Peter Parker," and Joe Jameson like passes out behind his desk. So it's like a pretty iconic moment.
Yeah. But because we were discussing before the show started, like I think we discussed this a few weeks ago, where the contract for Sony lending Spider-Man back to the MCU, I think has ended.
Yeah, it was 5 movies total.
But I think from memory, Tom Holland has one more contract with Sony. I think I remember you looked it up last time. This was quite a while ago when the first trailer came out or whatever. Tom Holland still has one more movie contracted with Sony as Spider-Man, but Sony has only lent Spider-Man to MCU for these 5 movies.
So does that mean he will be able to be in an Avengers movie, or like does that mean...
what I'm saying is Sony might be trying to make their own standalone Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland to cash in, but in terms of Kevin Feige and the MCU, they've already done all their Spider-Man. Unless I'm sure they're going to they're going to assume they're going to renegotiate.
Look, I'm going to quote Peter Parker himself.
Yeah.
Mr. Stark, I feel so good.
Yeah. But I think this ending where he reveals Peter's identity to the world...
definitely a power play.
It's either Kevin Feige going like, "Ha, Sony, you deal with it. If you don't want to give us back, you guys deal with it." Or it's or Kevin Feige saying like, "If you give us that back, I have a plan to how to finish that off." Or they're most likely the movie's doing so well, they're going to renegotiate. Sony's making a lot of money for doing nothing.
Honestly, don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I mean,
if I had $1 for every time companies have done bad things for no apparent good reason.
Yeah, Sony.
I mean, we'll update you, listeners, if the next
Sony is no stranger to bad decision making.
I'm sure if you listen to the show, you'll hear any updates on this. It'll be a matter of public record.
I think ending the movie that way is definitely like, oh, whoa, what the hell, so.
There's no update.
The fact really. That J.K. Simmons, like Raimi is God. Raimi memes is gonna have a meltdown on Reddit. Like, it's amazing. Like, best thing they could have done for these movies. But we've run out of time for the live section, but there's still some more to talk about. Should we just end it here, or do you guys want to mention anything quickly?
No, we can end it here for the live portion of the show.
Yeah, all right. Well, if you're listening live, Matt's up next with his show Car Talk. If you're listening to the podcast, we'll be back in a sec. All right, so we'll finish off with the contract stuff, because I'm 100% sure...
There's no new information.
Okay, there's no new information.
No, I looked. As far as people, it's unclear. Yeah, people waiting. We're waiting for news now.
Yeah, because I'm like, I can't remember what episode it is. I'm sure if you look at the descriptions, you'll see where we talk about the Spider-Man trailer. But yeah, you were talking about how, I think it was like 5 movies or whatever.
3 in the MCU, technically, like 3 Avengers and 2 solo.
And 2 solo. Yeah. But then you said something about Tom Holland has one more contracted with Sony.
Which that might have been this one.
No, because this is the 5th.
Yeah, there was only 5.
Okay, we have to go back to that older episode and listen, because you were reading from a different article then, and I was very confused as to how they knew that information and if it was accurate. So and now it looks like if you can't find it now, it probably wasn't accurate at all. But most likely, Sony, even though they're not the sharpest tool, they'll renegotiate because they're making a lot of money for not doing a lot.
Certainly hope so.
And Kevin Feige has a plan of how to keep Spider-Man in MCU indefinitely. But yeah, this is a big bomb to drop in a mid credit sequence.
They need some of that Disney muscle.
Yeah. But then there's the final end credit sequence.
Oh, mate, look, let me just say this, mate. If you like the Skrulls, you're in for a treat, eh? Get them in ya. Fucking Skrulls, eh?
Like...
Ben Mendelsohn again. Like I said,
look, yeah.
It's just a shame. Like, go listen. If you want to hear me whinge about Captain Marvel, go listen to the episode.
Yeah,
canonically, the Skrulls have Australian ochre accents, and it drives me up the wall.
I love Mendo, and that didn't even bother me that much. But it is weird and doesn't fit into the whole sci-fi fantasy kind of world. That's not what bothered me about the end credit scene.
Yeah, that's
revealed. It's revealed that the Nick Fury in Spider-Man Far From Home, who's giving Spider-Man his missions, who's letting Mysterio use S.H.I.E.L.D. technology. Is it even S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore? S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist anymore? I can't remember. But you know what I mean. Like, the Nick Fury in this movie is actually Talos the Skrull from Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Who's working for Nick Fury and
like
pretending,
a body double, kinda.
pretending to be running things on Earth as Nick Fury while Nick Fury's off in space, assumedly helping Captain Marvel. This ruins all of Nick Fury's character in Far From Home, which is actually a really interesting character, where he's kind of forcing Spider-Man to do things that he doesn't want to do. He even says to Peter, like, I've been gone for 5 years. I don't know what's going on. Like, I need to
get his bearings.
Yeah, I need to take command of this sinking ship.
Yeah.
That means nothing at the end of the movie. They reverse all of Nick Fury's character.
They subverted our expectations.
And this is my problem. This is my problem with some of it. And even though I love MCU, is like they put the in some cases, not all cases, they put the joke above the emotional character development sort of side.
But again, like I think that's a Disney problem though, because they do that to Star Wars.
Yeah, but like it wasn't really a big problem until stuff like this started happening.
Yeah.
Or stuff like Nick Fury getting his eye scratched out.
That's what I was about to mention.
And this is what really pisses me off is we were talking just before the show, like one of the big problems we had with Captain Marvel was that Nick Fury, they had the perfect chance to show Nick Fury in his prime.
It also rendered the character mystery into a joke. It kind of just evolved.
But it's like you had the perfect opportunity to show Nick Fury being a badass secret agent, infiltrating enemy bases, killing guys, snapping necks, like you said.
I was saying it should have been like my Nick Fury movie.
Yeah.
Is basically a Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid tactical espionage mission.
Yeah, exactly. And Captain Marvel had the opportunity to do that. Instead, they make Nick Fury this kind of jokey guy who's part of this... He's part of S.H.I.E.L.D., but S.H.I.E.L.D. now is apparently just some random...
three-letter agency kind of
just sort of...
Black Ops.
Yeah, just sort of a branch of the government, kind of, a generic CIA, FBI rip-off. Like, they don't deal with any big, Men in Black, X-Files stuff, apparently, which is dumb because it's canonical that that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. was made for in the 40s and 50s. So, like, it doesn't make sense that they retcon that to be a sort of dumb, generic, inconsequential organization, which Coulson and Fury seem to be the only worthwhile members of, and don't really seem to have any training or
Marvel
knowledge.
Doesn't seem to feel that much anymore anyway.
Yeah, and so like it's that. So Captain Marvel ruined that, and now they ruined the whole eye thing. Turning it into a joke, and now they give Nick Fury a really interesting sort of development as someone who is still trying to work shit out, is still trying to command this organization against evil, is still as cynical as ever, and then they turn into a joke. He's not Nick Fury. Nick Fury's pretending to be on a beach in a hologram in space somewhere.
Which is kind of lame on its own.
And I'm just like, it just, they just ruin everything. Like, you just...
Do you have an update on the contract situation?
Okay.
That was fast.
According to a 2016 cover story interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Tom Holland states that his contract that he signed was 3 Spider-Man appearance movies, the Marvel films, and 3 solo movies. So 6 in total.
So there's only been 5 MCU, and unless that's another MCU Spider-Man movie, which as far as we know is not.
I mean, as Far From Home, would you consider Far From Home a solo movie? Yes. Technically?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There was no Spider-Man will return text. You know, in some of the end movies,
did they do that with Homecoming? Yeah, but
they did. They did with Homecoming. They did with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of They did with Ant-Man, I think.
Yeah,
maybe because it's not up to Marvel to do that anymore.
Yes, that's the kind of speculation. Is now Sony's gonna take it and ruin it, and it'll still make money if Tom Holland's in it, and maybe they'll try to force Tom Hardy as Venom in it, but. Yeah, but
they will. Just watch.
But we don't want that. The MCU Spider-Man, as many problems as it has, and does have a lot of problems,
it's still amazing.
It's a lot better than what Sony was doing, and it's the one people are responding to. It's the one that's making a shit ton of money. It's the one that people want to see more of. It's the one that Kevin Feige has a plan to keep around. So hopefully, like I said, I'm pretty sure Sony will renegotiate.
Just trust in Feige, man. He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing.
So, I don't understand, if they don't renew this contract, someone at Sony should get fired. Because they're printing money.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. They're doing nothing to make a lot of money.
Yeah, all they're doing is being like, sure, Marvel, you can use give us a profit-sharing agreement, and you can make as many movies as you like.
Exactly, that's all I need.
It's free money.
Hopefully we see, more MCU Spider-Man, but there are problems, and hopefully I just that. But, as much as I love the MCU and I don't mind this shared universe and what sticking around for the end credit scenes and that, don't reverse what you've set up. Don't retcon things, and not everything has to be a joke.
That's right.
You can have a funny movie without undercutting your character development and undercutting
like Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I feel like the comedy was done fairly well.
Yeah, I mean that
was more of a comedy.
That was more of a
movie.
That also had problems where sometimes the comedy would overshadow some of the emotional moments. But they never really reversed any. It was just it's a soft reboot of the Thor movies, but they kind of needed that
because they were trash.
But they never really. It was never an insulting kind of retcon like the Nick Fury kind of Captain Marvel stuff has been. So I mean that last end credit scene for Far From Home was just trash, especially coming off the mid credit scene, which was amazing. So I mean, just a few more things before we wrap up. Night Monkey we mentioned, Peter Tingle. I love Led Zeppelin. That was funny.
And that's also another callback to Diamond movies.
Yeah, that's why when he puts on AC/DC, because he sees Tony in Peter, Happy does. So I love all the Happy and Aunt May stuff. I think that's good. I think they maybe could have fleshed that out a bit more, and maybe keeping it in New York would have helped them have more Aunt May scenes, more stuff like that. Stay sticky.
Yeah.
I like that. One of my, we were talking about the action scenes aren't really great, but one of the bits I really did like is where they're fighting the fire monster and Spider-Man shoots his webs and they go up towards the fire monster, but then they catch fire and they burn back down to his wrists.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
That.
Yeah, no, that was really, really cool. If they could have done more interesting visual stuff like that, more on a grounded level, that would be really cool. I think that's it.
I think we covered all the major bases.
I think, like I said, the drones being the big climactic battle was a bit disappointing. It felt like the second stage of the boss fight, and then the next stage should have been Mysterio, should have been the big emotional, fight. But instead, like the second stage was the last stage. It was the, you know what I mean? Like they should have.
I think that the last fight would be interesting if it was a series of illusions, and then when he gets to them, it's just a one-on-one fight between him and Mysterio.
Exactly.
So the big fight with Mysterio isn't about the illusions; it's just a literal one-on-one fist fight in the parking lot outside Denny's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're in London. So what would it be? It'd be Tesco's,
Burger King,
Sainsbury's, like. Finding it out.
What's it called? Pret?
Yeah. Yeah. You what, mate?
You what?
There's like people looking on with beers.
Yeah. I appreciate that there's a bit where they're in Venice and MJ is like, I learnt a new Italian word. It's my favorite word. Bo. They're not saying it right. It's bo. Like, it's like a question. It's like, what? Like, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like but I appreciate that they tried.
Yeah.
But I feel like they could have kept doing that. Like, she brings it up and then they drop it. Like, that would have been funny, like a good callback if she does it later. Like, someone does something and, but I appreciate they tried it. Also, all that we were talking about with great power comes great responsibility, and how they don't have an Uncle Ben yet. But it's MCU, so I'm sure Kevin Feige has an idea of who's going to play Uncle Ben, and eventually,
Uncle Happy.
Eventually he'll
get shot down dead in the street.
No, like he's already dead. But eventually they'll do a flashback at some point. I'm assuming. Like, I don't think they'll just never show him in the MCU. They'll probably get like someone famous like George Clooney or whatever.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, that would be funny. But like, I was saying to my friend, I'm like, that article where Kevin Feige's like, every Marvel movie we make, we try to get Keanu Reeves. I'm like, and we were talking about Hottie May. I'm like, Marissa Tomei and Keanu Reeves will make a pretty gorgeous couple.
He can't be too old. Because, like, she's not...
Well, he's mid-50s. She's got to be around 50.
Well,
so
look, I think
it makes sense.
My understanding is they want him for an actually bigger role. Like Adam Warlock, potentially.
Yeah, but if they can't...
That's been talked about.
But, like, if he's not interested in that, or, if they can't, like, that would be great to have...
And it's like the highest...
Great power comes great responsibility.
The highest celebrity cameo. You just see Keanu get shot in the street and that's it.
Or alternatively... Because did you guys notice a Stan Lee cameo in this?
No.
I'm sure there's like a picture of him in the background or something, but I didn't notice anything at all. No. And obviously he didn't film one for the movie, but I assume there's gonna be a picture or a video of him in the background somewhere, but I didn't notice it. But maybe Keanu can take over as the Stan Lee cameo.
That'd be pretty
just
cool.
have a spot the Keanu kind of just have him in there.
Speaking of Keanu, we should just post a quick update about our favorite, one of our favorite science fiction franchises, Bill and Ted. That's officially started filming as of like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. So we'll keep on top of the developments of Bill and Ted's. What is it? What's the
Face the Music?
Face the Music.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that'll be good. Do you guys want to mention anything else about Spider-Man?
No, I think I'm good. It's good. Go see it.
Yeah. It has problems, but
most of them do.
See, if maybe Kevin Feige, give us a call.
Yeah, we'll help you.
Send us an email.
Yeah. You can Ken Feige, you can reach us at Tuesday Review AU on Twitter. So slide into our DMs.
Should we talk about I was going to say Spider-Man. Should we talk about Sandman?
So Sandman is a Vertigo. Rest in peace, Vertigo.
Yeah. Also, last week we talked about DC shutting down Vertigo.
Yeah.
And we thought like it Vertigo started in like the mid to late 80s, but actually started in 93.
Yeah.
But the reasons I was confused about when it started is because stuff like Sandman and Hellblazer started in the late 80s.
Yeah.
But then were started with DC and then went over to Vertigo. But that's why I thought Vertigo started earlier. Yeah. Like even V for Vendetta, which I think was published in America by Vertigo, like that came out in like early to mid 80s. So I was oh well, Vertigo obviously is from the mid 80s. But
that's my bad as well. I thought well.
But Vertigo started in 93, but then some
just reincorporated lots of early
some of the earlier stuff
got republished under the Vertigo banner. Yeah.
But I'm sure people listened to last week, so we don't have to re-explain what Vertigo is. But,
no. So Sandman was a Vertigo comic that was like it was basically just a 90s comic. It had 75 issues, if my memory is correct. It is alive now because they're redoing it for a more modern audience.
But it's one of the kind of
it's the class. It's one of the big classics. You know, like there's like the Charlie Chaplin movies for like comedy.
Yeah.
You have the Dickens books for like literature and blah blah blah. This is like the mature fantasy comic.
Yeah.
So it's essentially revolves around a set of gods who form a kind of family called the Endless. They're the personifications of various things. Like the main character Morpheus is the god of dreaming. He controls everyone's dreams.
Yeah.
So when you dream, you basically enter his realm. There's his sister Death, which is literally the goddess of death, or like the impersonification of death.
Yeah.
Not so much a god as the personified essence of.
Yeah.
You have destruction, destiny, delirium, desire. There's a whole bunch of them.
And it's created by Neil Gaiman,
one of our favorite authors.
You know, American Gods and Good Omens, and you know he's getting a pretty big.
He's got a bad street rep right now.
Yeah, like what is it?
They're giving him the Stephen King
screen.
treatment.
Yeah, this is exactly a book to screen. But he's like one of the reasons it's such a classic comic book is because of him. Like he's always been pushing boundaries. You know, to edgy. He's kind of that '90s kind of.
Yeah, he explored themes which generally weren't getting explored at the time.
Yeah, it's darker, it's weirder.
And he made American. He took up the offer to make American Gods a TV show. In his mind, this was American Gods was starting the journey to getting Sandman made.
Yeah, well, Sandman's
a lot more difficult to adapt.
It's been in development hell for like 20 years. Like they've been trying to make a Sandman movie or TV show pretty much since the comic debuted in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So no, the late 80s. So
So what's interesting about this is Netflix acquired it.
Finally,
the Netflix.
Netflix. Because I was worried because we've talked about this a lot.
Please no TBS.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot.
ABC.
Behind the scenes where it's like, yeah, FX is great, AMC is great, but they have some content restrictions. You can't really swear. You can't really have nudity.
And violence isn't everything. Like I don't care. Like
violence doesn't mean shit. So like. We were hoping, Netflix, Amazon, maybe HBO. And I know I think they offered it to HBO first, and HBO was like, nah. But finally, it seems that
and apparently they're spending a lot of money on it as well.
You bloody better hope so, especially with the weird shit they have to do.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Sandman is the kind of stories they told are not traditional stories.
It's not an action series.
It's
either.
like it's a fantasy / science fiction drama adventure romance.
Dark fantasy.
It basically because it's an anthology. So the comic book was an anthology kind of comic book where there were characters that were all throughout the whole series, but each arc was a completely self-contained story more or less, apart from like the final arc.
Yeah.
So and it's also Vertigo wide. So you have like lots of recurring characters from other franchises would pop in.
Yeah. Constantine.
And DC characters would pop in.
Yeah.
And
But it wasn't like it's not a crossover.
No.
thing.
They
like,
would
it's not
just have an appearance in the Sandman comics. The Sandman would not affect DC comics.
But even when they did appear, it wasn't like here's the Batman Superman crossover.
Yeah,
it's just like here's the Sandman world. Here's the weird dark kind of drama.
He's Morpheus talking to the Martian Manhunter for a moment.
Yeah.
And then they'd move on.
Yeah. So
the interesting thing is adapting these stories to TV. The reason Netflix is good is because Netflix doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
They're like, you write what... Yeah. And especially because Neil Gaiman is co-writing the pilot, and I'm hoping he'll have a say in...
I'm sure he'll be a consultant.
Because it's his baby.
He's been trying to get it made for a while.
So I'm hoping it'll be balls to the wall. Now, again, this is all speculation. Yeah. Things can change very quickly in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
But Gaiman...
this is the first kind of concrete news of it's going to happen kind of thing.
Neil Gaiman has stated that people should not be worried because the Sandman is beloved. So people on Twitter have been tweeting at Neil all day saying, please don't ruin this. Oh my God, I'd rather you didn't do this.
Yeah.
He said, don't worry. It's not a reinvention of Sandman. It's the Sandman. Like that's what he said. It's not. They're not changing anything. Yeah. It is going to be 30 years later.
It's an adaptation of the comic stories, but just set
30 years after.
Yeah, in present day.
Yeah. So that's I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, which is good, but also one of the problems I foresaw of adapting Sandman from the comic to like live action is you lose that kind of 90s grunge aspect.
Yeah.
Like Sandman, Morpheus, he has that kind of long black hair.
Yeah.
The kind of, the Robert
they all
Smith.
dress in black.
Yeah, the kind of, like that kind of that kind of
emo
like
look.
grungy London kind of punk kind of thing.
I know that in the modern comics they all kind of retain that.
Yeah, like you can have that, but like I hope they don't lose that kind of core feeling.
As long as strange as this is going to sound for people who haven't read the comics, as long as they're all really pasty, I'm happy.
Yeah, as long as they're pale and have like long black hair,
I'm happy. So, again, we'll keep you up to date with all the news about Sandman. But I wrote down as James was saying to me earlier, this is going to live or die. I don't necessarily agree with the statement that it's going to live or die by its casting.
Well, I mean, I should expand upon that. Like most of my fears about changing the time period, you lose that kind of grungy 90s edgy kind of thing. Casting is also going to be very hard because I feel like the way those characters are represented in that kind of grungy black hair kind of goth style, you need someone who can pull that off naturally.
Yeah.
You need an actor who doesn't look stupid with long black hair and a pale skin.
Keanu?
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm like, Keanu should be in everything. He could pull that shit off.
Well, I wrote down a few of, as someone who loves the comics, I took some time to think about this, and I wrote down some casting suggestions.
Yeah.
Again, none of these are going to come to fruition. These are just things that from people
like fan casting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fan casting. So Tom Hiddleston as Morpheus.
Yeah.
I know he's obvious, but he could also pull off the look fine.
Yeah, well, I think that one's just too close to Loki. It's too boring.
The thing about Morpheus is he's not a particularly exciting character. He doesn't emote a lot. He'll just stand there and he'll say something.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't.
He's a goth.
Yeah, no, he's very. he's a stoic. Do you know what I mean?
Can we just cast Robert Smith?
Well, yeah.
Old man Robert Smith.
But yeah, he doesn't he's not very expressive. So I think you could get away with casting someone boring.
No, but I mean boring in terms of the choice.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like I was just like, he's got long black hair and he's pale and it's just Loki.
Any suggestions?
Well, I mean, I'd have to think, like off the top of my head, I don't have, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt was attached to direct and star in that Sandman movie. I think he's interesting enough to get away with it. I'm sure there's a lot of actors that, I'd have to make my own list.
So the controversial one will be Death. Who has a very classic look. I looked up a big list of like the 100 top actresses at the moment off IMDb, and there were none that I thought would really just first impressions value pull it off. I put Felicia Day, just because I think personally, just if I could, I imagined her as looking like Death. I'm like, I
wouldn't really pick that. But
again,
I feel like
who do you choose? It's
maybe,
so difficult.
Yeah, I think like maybe a good idea would be doing like unknown British actor kind of thing. I think that would be the best option. I mean Game of Thrones, now everyone in Game of Thrones is famous, but when Game of Thrones started, they were picking kind of good British actors.
The lady who does Marjorie Tyrell might be an interesting Death.
Oh yeah. Emily Dawn?
Yeah, that might be interesting.
Oh, fuck, what's her name?
Dorma or whatever.
Yeah. Natalie
Dawn. Nelly D.
Yeah, that might be an interesting choice.
Maybe,
actually.
yeah. But like what I'm saying is, you cast good British actors who fit the role, and then then they become super famous afterwards. But you don't cast someone who's super famous now.
Yeah. Oh, these are just people. I was like,
but like in ideal situations, they're gonna cast like unknown British actors.
Now, Destiny, who's like the imposing elder one, who he's kind of like scruffy looking, doesn't have much to do with the others. I put ideally Alan Rickman, but of course he's passed away.
Yeah.
So I did think Jared Leto, because I think he can pull off the scruffy look. But Javier Bardem might be an interesting choice. I think that he might also pull off the physicality of the role, like that imposing kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
Destruction, who is like a larger kind of scrawny, brawny kind of guy. I put Tom Hardy / Christian Bale, leaning more towards Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Desire, which is an androgynous character who represents sexual and romantic desire.
Yeah.
has two forms, a masculine and feminine form, who look a little different. So you could multicast that one, or
Twins.
just cast a suitably androgynous.
I think that would be interesting.
Like Jared Leto, for example. I think unironically, I think he could pull it off given the right makeup and the right
he got the Oscar, now he's going for the Emmy.
exactly.
But I think like like twin actors or like androgynous actor, like doing both. Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Despair, which is a larger obese female impersonification of Despair.
Yeah.
Now, you do need a larger actress for this role if they're going to play it to the comics.
Yeah.
Which they have no reason not to. I mean, there are fat characters and everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know any particularly large actresses who are known for their dramatic performances.
It has to be that unknown, that unknown British actors.
Delirium, Margot Robbie, I chose because I think that she could I'm having a brain fart. She could personify that in a pretty convincing way.
Yeah.
Unlikely characters who are in the comics, though, due to licensing rights, I don't think will make an appearance. Lucifer, who already has his own TV show, but he's actually quite an important part.
Also owned by Netflix, though.
Oh, that's true.
That's slightly higher on the list of...
But you also don't want like that crossover.
I don't want that.
Like
I don't
that
want.
guy,
I don't want the fighting crime version of Lucifer.
Yeah.
No, but they own. If they own the show,
rights.
then they would have the rights to the character, so they might be able to get away with it.
So I would personally cast Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Lucifer.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, he's much more well-to-do. He doesn't slum it with the plebs like he does in the TV show. He's kind of aloof. He has his bar, but he doesn't interact with humanity as such.
Yeah.
Constantine, who is in the comics, the baby goose.
This one would be harder.
Yeah, harder to cast.
Harder to get access.
Ideally, you want Sting.
That. Well, yeah,
because he was based on Sting originally. So,
like I said, you need that kind of you need that unknown British actor. Like pick one of the Game of Thrones actors. What's his name? Who's playing Bruce Wayne now? Ian Glenn, who played Jorah in Game of Thrones. Like he's a Constantine-esque kind of
God, Neil Gaiman.
That would be so good.
It's obvious.
Yeah.
Right? And Timothy Hunter, who is an important Vertigo character who probably won't be in the show at all, who's known for the Books of Magic. I put Jack Dylan Grazer. The Shazam. He's in Shazam. He's in, the actor.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting choice.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it for my casting suggestions. Which aren't going to pan out.
Yeah,
Fancy.
We'll see. I think one of the reasons Sandman has been in development hell so long is one, because Neil Gaiman has sort of wanted it to be a good adaptation, and two, it's very hard to bring to live action.
Oh yeah.
And
hopefully it's not going to be a CGI shit.
Yeah, it'll be extremely hard to replicate the visuals, the atmosphere, that kind of grungy vibe.
Also, just like the aloof fantasiness.
Yeah, that kind of weird. Yeah, and it's not even like
David Lynch to direct.
Oh God. Yeah, no, you don't want to be that cryptic. Yeah, like it'll be really. But I think the good news is Netflix will obviously put the time and the budget behind it.
Yeah,
So I mean, this is good news, because if it was at another network or whatever, it might not.
We're gonna have to wait to see how many episodes they're gonna give it. See, the interesting thing about the Sandman is it was only 75 issues long. That's if my memory is correct, because I don't think it went.
Well, there were 10 trade paperback volumes.
Yep. So 75 episodes is not an inconceivable amount if you give it a multi-year contract.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they could theoretically do the whole comic show.
10 episode seasons.
Yeah.
Like, they don't necessarily have to be one-to-one.
It could be trimmed. You could trim the storylines to their essence.
5 10 episode seasons. That would be
1 hour episodes.
Yeah, that would be a good length.
I'm like, you could theoretically do the whole show.
Because it's Netflix.
The whole comics.
We always talk about this. Because it's Netflix, they don't have to stick to that 45 minute to an hour.
28 episode, half an hour episode.
Yeah, like, they
Look at one of the best shows of, I'm pretty sure it was last year, was it Russian Doll?
No.
I'm talking about episode length specifically.
No, but I'm talking about but that was still half an hour.
No, there was some episodes with like 20 minutes.
It wasn't a great difference. I'm talking about if one episode of Sandman is 95 minutes, the next episode of Sandman is half an hour. The next episode of Sandman is 100 minutes.
Yeah.
The next episode of Sandman is 85 minutes.
They're not bound by the advertiser's schedule.
It's like you wanna adapt this
this story will only take this amount of time.
Yeah, you want to adapt this standalone one issue, one off Sandman universe story. Give it a half an hour episode, drop it in the middle of a season. Don't even explain yourselves.
Yeah,
do it.
Go for it.
Because they have the power to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who run these streaming services still have the mindset of the old TV days.
Yeah, where it has to fit into
1 hour.
schedule.
Yeah, you have to 1 hour episodes. You have to fit into the, There was one of the problems with the Marvel Netflix shows is that 13 episode seasons, 45 minutes each. It's like, no, it doesn't need to be that.
Give it the Black Mirror treatment.
Yeah. Like, I just finished Too Old to Die Young, the Nicholas Winding Refn series on Amazon. And, I thought it was just a normal, 1 hour, 10 episodes, 1 hour each. But, most of them are 90 minutes each.
Wow.
Some of them are 80, 70 minutes. One of them's an hour. One of them's half an hour. So it's just kind of they were just fuck it. It's on streaming. Amazon's given us a huge budget. We'll just tell the story the way we want to tell it. The OA is the same way, and that's on Netflix. Some episodes are half an hour, some episodes are over an hour.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
And I think Sandman's because it's an anthology.
Yeah.
Sandman's the best place best show to do that with.
And if one season's shit, they can always just get in a new director for the next story.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that D&D Game of Thrones problem where if one director runs out of steam. Well, good thing is that next season, new story, bro.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Don't have to worry about it.
But I feel like if they screw up the style and the visual side of it and the casting, then every season, subsequent season, will suffer. If they don't nail it in the first episode,
well,
then it's just
this is not what will happen. But the interesting thing about the Sandman is they could just recast him. Between seasons, they could just have a different actor play Morpheus.
Even they could get even more experimental with it, and each episode could be almost completely standalone, where it's just get new cast members in. Lady who played Death in the first episode doesn't play Death in the second episode.
As long as they have the same outfit.
Yeah, but it's that. It's more.
Well, not even
the
same outfit. I mean, there are times where characters will just be dressed differently.
It's working to the strength of the show.
Yeah,
it's all the episodes can be different.
They're the essence of that. Death is the essence of Death. Doesn't mean she has to look like that all the time.
Yeah. This probably isn't what they'll do, but it would be interesting to do a Love, Death and Robots kind of thing, where it's adapt each individual Sandman story in different styles.
Well, they do
one
that
live action, one exactly.
There'll be a comic set in Asia, and then all the essences, whether it be Morpheus or Death, they will look Asian. Yeah, because that's how the people.
There was one.
So the endless work by whoever's looking at them, they have the default appearance in which Morpheus is the pasty guy with the long black hair or whatever. But each person who looks at Dream will see that culture's interpretation of Dream.
Yeah. There's a different there's a standalone Sandman story about a man who falls in love with a fox.
Oh yeah.
It's really good.
Oh, I'm gonna look it up.
But it's like I was saying, you could adapt. Your Sandman. Here's your Sandman series. Oh, what? There's an animated episode about a man who falls in love with a fox done in an Asian style.
I'm down.
Best show ever. Next episode, you're back to live action, back with Morpheus.
Semi-related. One of the most popular episodes of the show Supernatural in the last couple of years.
That's good.
You laugh.
No, yeah.
But one of the most popular episodes of recent memory of Supernatural was when they did a crossover with Scooby-Doo, and it was really all animated.
Yeah.
And it was
Dream
excellent.
Dream Hunters.
The Dream Hunters, yeah. Really good.
That was really good. Yeah. So you could do that, and that's what's great about Sandman's. All the stories are kind of not standalone, but it's an anthology kind of thing. So that would be really interesting. And
well, they also have the Death one. The High Cost of Living, which is where Death every 100 years or something gets to live as a person and experience a person's not natural lifespan, but I think for 20 or 24 or 48 hours, she gets to just be among the people.
Yeah.
Which they could also...
we talked about this quite a while ago, before any of this news was coming out, where I was saying, it's going to be hard to recreate that grunge style, to recreate that 90s kind of look to the characters. And then when we're talking about these characters are immortal beings who have been around forever. So it's like, if it's an anthology, they could just set an episode in ancient Egypt, or set an episode in 80s London, and just change the style a bit,
and it won't.
And it
as a
makes
person
sense,
who loves his source material, it won't clash with anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like the virtue of the characters is...
And if Neil Gaiman writes an episode, what are the nerds going to complain about?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I mean, he's showrunning American Gods Season 2, right?
Yes. So
he adapted, he wrote the screenplay adaptation of his and Terry Pratchett's books for Good Omen.
Yeah.
So even though he might not be writing all these... scripts for Sandman, like he's involved, and
if he signs off on an episode that might not be canonically correct,
no one's
it's
gonna
like no one can say shit.
Nerds, people who love Neil Gaiman can't really complain because he's executive producing, so he'll have at least some input.
Look, if he fucks it up, we'll definitely complain.
That's the thing, though.
But he's so smart, he'll have a good comeback, and then everyone will feel bad.
I think his adaptations have mostly worked.
Yeah,
Lucifer being an exception, but
that wasn't up to him.
He didn't control a lot of it.
Yeah, no, that wasn't him.
And he didn't control. He didn't invent Constantine either. So the Lord and Savior of comics, Alan Moore, invented Constantine, didn't he?
Did he?
Yes,
for the Swamp Thing.
Google it.
I'm pretty sure Constantine made his first appearance in Alan
the
Moore's Swamp Thing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then Jamie Delano is I think he's the guy who gave Constantine his own Hellblazer.
See, I want to again, Keanu Reeves is God, and I really like the Keanu Reeves Constantine
movie. It'd be cool
movie.
if he was in Sandman.
Oh man,
as Constantine.
Fuck yeah!
30 years, oh my god. Speaking of, they could also throw an ageless reference in there because Keanu doesn't age.
See, I really like that Constantine movie, but as an adaptation of the comic books, it's not great. Like, it's a good standalone supernatural action movie.
It's a brilliant noir kind of detective supernatural film.
As an adaptation of the Constantine in the comics and the Hellblazer comics, it's not great. So I would like a really good... Because I know there was that TV series, Hellblazer, but I didn't really like that.
You know, the problem with that show is that they finally started to find their feet, and then the show got cancelled.
But I feel like with...
I was just reading about the Swamp Thing. They on the TV show it's cancelled.
Yeah.
With one of the episodes that's just aired, they teased the Constantine crossover.
No.
Yeah, I'm looking at the article right now.
No.
Yeah, no. The Swamp Thing, the DC TV.
Did they cancel that?
And they did. I'm so pissed.
And that was shady too. And it's shady too.
Yeah,
they reckon it was to do with tax business.
I was so looking forward to that show more than any other DC show.
And they teased Constantine in the show.
Fuck, that would be amazing.
It was like,
look, it goes to show that the Constantine property isn't as might not be strictly controlled. So if they were going to let Swamp Thing have a Constantine appearance,
I'm hoping
we could possibly have a Netflix cameo.
Yeah, because like I said with Sandman and a lot of other properties as well, Netflix is such a good place for it because of their no content restrictions and their big budgets and their good production value. So Constantine is a great Netflix is a great place for Hellblazer and Constantine.
But will Constantine suck a dog's dick?
Does that happen?
Yes, it does happen.
Netflix would definitely show that. Other networks
Callum's like, why, Nathan? Why did you have to put us down so low?
Oh no, it's canon.
It's canon. I'm bringing the show down to my dirty level.
Your dirty mind. But because the DC streaming service, and they have their partnership with Netflix, so Titans and Doomed Patrol will come out on Netflix here in
maybe
Australia.
Maybe Swamp Thing season 1 eventually.
Well, season 1 we'll get, and then that's that. But they don't seem to have any content restrictions because those shows were pretty hardcore, or Titans was. Titans didn't have nudity, but it had everything else. So if we get Constantine in that DC streaming service, that would be cool. I would be down for that. Even if Swamp Thing's, done. They could make a Hellblazer show. That would be cool.
I feel like Swamp Thing, from what we can gather, it wasn't cancelled because they didn't have faith in the show.
No, there was some shifty stuff going on.
There was some dodgy stuff going down.
Because it was originally supposed to be 12 or 13 episodes. Then, they were getting to the end of production and they just stopped production. And it's only going to be 10 episodes. And all the actors were like, what the fuck? We have all the scripts here. You can't just stop filming and pretend it's going to be a 10 episode season. And I think Virginia Madsen, who's one of the actors, she was like, fuck this shit. She went on Instagram and then they got taken down or whatever. And then after that, They finished filming the series, and they either aired the pilot or they were about to air the pilot, and they were like, "No, the show's cancelled after season 1. You're getting the 10 episodes, and then that's it," because someone missigned some paperwork, and they didn't get the tax break.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, this is some shady shit. There's some shady shit going on. They knew when they cancelled those last 3 episodes what they were doing. There's something going on.
Yeah.
Like, and now they're pretending like they can't make another season in a different city.
Yeah, well, I don't see why they didn't just... Why didn't they just...
Well, I mean, $40 million, but still... Like,
eat the cost, man, and just move cities. Go to Vancouver like everyone else.
Yeah. And if it is such a fickle business that, making a mistake on your paperwork is going to cost you $40 million, then that's up. You're going to eat that mistake. I'm sure someone got fired, but... There's something shifty going on, and I was really looking forward to that show. So that's disappointing.
As far as Constantine goes, Constantine show, I think that the only way I would do it is a straight adaptation in which they would do the story arcs from the comic, because the comics are very well thought out, very well told stories. Yeah. The problem with the previous TV show that had Constantine was it wasn't really based. It was based on the overall
its
idea
problem
of the
was
character.
It was on a TV mainstream network.
That's what it was. It was based on the general concept of the Constantine character. Yeah. And they just
put him into normal supernatural.
He was too. It was like a mixture of the supernatural TV show and him being a hocus pocus bam bam wizard.
Yeah. They need to get the gritty, I don't give a fuck classic
chain
John. Yeah. Like chain smoking.
In the comics. In the comics, his abilities are, yes, he casts spells, but he's also just like, he investigates things.
The best thing, like at the end of the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves, he has lung cancer, he's about to die, but he makes a deal to sort of
sacrifice himself,
to sacrifice himself, and in the process,
redeems himself.
He redeems himself, and he gets cured of cancer. And at the end, the last shot, you think he's going to take out a smoke, but instead he takes out chewing gum, and he's like, "I've changed for the better." The Constantine in the comics cheats the devil, cheats God, gets cured of lung cancer, takes out a pack of fucking smokes, and smashes a wine bottle on the devil's fucking head.
It's even better than that. He cheats there's more than one devil.
He sells his soul. He sells his soul to multiple demons,
and
so he knows he can't die because there'll be war in hell.
They'll be fighting over his soul.
So in his mind, they'll just keep curing him cancer.
So he's basically for duration. He's basically immortal because now everyone's too scared to kill him because there'll be a massive war.
And then he fucking bottles the devil over the face. I'm pretty sure with a fucking wine bottle.
Yeah, and he also cuts the wings off of Gabriel with a chainsaw.
Yeah, he's also a fucking cockney. Like, I don't give a fuck, like, fuck off cunt, like, So, like, I want that version, like, hardcore,
like there are some great comic arcs that would be great TV. Like there's a comic arc called The Fear Machine.
Yeah,
did you read that one?
I know, I'm not sure.
Well, someone builds a machine that keeps people asleep and they have like nightmares and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like, brilliant TV.
Yeah, oh, that would be good. Like,
like
weird like illusions and
like just incredible TV. And that could also play into like a Sandman crossover if this was on Netflix.
Yeah, that would be great. We're almost out of time and we haven't even gotten to the next topic yet. So we'll quickly talk about The Witcher images, which The Witcher adaptations of the fantasy novels, which is also turned into video games by CD Projekt, who we've been talking about with Cyberpunk. Netflix is doing an adaptation of the books, not the games, into a TV series, and Henry Cavill has been cast as the main character Geralt,
which people were initially unsure about.
As someone who's not really familiar with the books or the game, just knows bits about it, knows the visuals, I was skeptical of his casting.
Look, I had a little bit of hope for Henry Cavill because he's a big fan of the franchise.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Having played all the books, having played all the games, and read all the books.
Yeah.
Being a massive fan, he was enthusiastic. Although he'd have the enthusiasm for the role.
Yeah.
But now we've seen the photos, and he looks good.
There's been some like teaser images, and like the hair looks good now. The wig is like not so. There was that costume test that they released online, which obviously looked really fake and didn't look right, and people were complaining. I'm like, no, it's just a costume test. The official images look a lot better. Obviously, the wig's more like salty, like grey, kind of realistic, and everyone's complaining about his armor. I think it looks really good.
Yeah, I didn't have any complaints.
It's cool.
Yeah.
They also released a picture of Yennefer, and people are complaining about that. Also, most of the people complaining don't realize that it's an adaptation of the books. It's not an adaptation of the game. So it's more accurate to the books than it is to the games. That's why there are things like there's a picture of Siri, who in the books I think is 13 or 14, but they aged her up in the games, and now people are complaining about her. I'm like, no, because it's part of the books.
Yeah.
People are complaining that Henry Cavill doesn't have a beard, but in the books, Geralt doesn't have a beard.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a beard in all the games either. Like, relax.
Doesn't he have a goatee?
No, not in the first one.
Okay.
People just need to...
In the third one.
Oh, the third one he might.
Yeah. Because most people have just played the third one, and
So
that's what
people-
they're going off of.
This is going to sound harsh, but if you're complaining about this, you need to just grow up and accept that this is not a video game one-to-one adaptation.
Yeah.
As someone who loves a good source material,
Yeah.
you got to know where to pick your fights, man.
Exactly. But I think, it makes sense. Like, for them to go back, like Game of Thrones, to go back to the books. Yes, there's already been a game adaptation, but that's not what this is.
They made a game adaptation for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cool that now they're going back to the source material and they're being more accurate to that. We're getting another big budget fantasy series, which
this one will rival Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and Netflix is definitely going to be pushing this as their next Game of Thrones,
because it's one of the biggest franchises in the world.
And now that Game of Thrones is
it's over,
finished, and there's the gap before the prequel comes, like they'll be dominating. So the only thing I'm worried about is the monsters and the special effects. I want to see more practical stuff. I want to see stuff that rivals Game of Thrones. I don't want to see a bunch of CGI flippy floppy bullshit. I think Netflix can pull it off.
They
but
can.
It depends on who the showrunner is, who the directors are, who the special effects guys are. Are they going to commit to that level of production special effects value that Game of Thrones had? Practical elements and so on.
Netflix doesn't seem to be too afraid of practical. They've done some in the past that look good, and we've got the Dark Crystal coming soon that looks to be puppet based.
I love me a good puppet.
We love a good puppet in this studio,
man.
So an interesting update that I forgot all about that I just remembered.
Yeah.
The Wheel of Time is actually moving forward with their TV adaptation on Amazon, with Rosamund Pike being one of the key actresses in the show.
Amazon not only has Lord of the Rings, they also have Wheel of Time, which is...
Man, I know Jeff Bezos is a billionaire.
They're securing that nerd dollar.
Yeah, and
I know Bezos is a billionaire, but calm down, man.
Yeah, like far out. Like, that's going to be insane. Oh,
so
man.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so...
But I'm also... It's going to be a trash fire, but I'm excited to see it.
Amazon's originals, pretty much all of them are really high quality. Look, we love Amazon because it's our bargain bin of like B-movie based.
Their original series have good production value.
Yeah.
And they don't have any content restrictions either.
Yeah, but it's such a difficult story to adapt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's probably... The adaptation's going to be the toughest part, but the production might look good.
It'll have money behind it.
Yeah.
People look at Amazon and they think it's just a load of B-movie trash. But all their which
their original,
we're not against.
I mean, no,
but
that's the fun of it.
Yeah, but all their originals are really top quality stuff.
That's true.
Should we move on to Cyberpunk before we run out of time?
Yeah, just quick update. Apparently, these Cyberpunk endeavors from CD Projekt Red are 3 games in total, which threw me for a 6. I had no idea.
Yeah, not only are they making Cyberpunk 2077 the video game, there's another multiplayer game.
Yeah, and it was not explained.
It's not explained what kind of multiplayer it is, or like
or how.
Yeah, like
what,
how. Yeah, but
and there's like a mystery game that hasn't been talked about at all.
Mystery game. There's also, I don't know if they've announced this, but there's assumedly going to be expansions to Cyberpunk 2077, like there was with The Witcher 3.
They've already confirmed that.
Yeah, so there's going to be like huge, almost standalone game size expansions for Cyberpunk 2077, plus a multiplayer game on its own.
They're going hard.
Set in the Cyberpunk world, plus another mystery game that Gwent with Cyber Gwent.
Yeah, Cyber Gwent.
Maybe.
It's like something about net running.
Netrunner. Yeah, that would be cool. Netrunner. You know what I would like? A game by CD Projekt Red set in the Cyberpunk universe that's just like puzzle solving hacker games. The pipe games. Where you have to. Like in Spider-Man, the Spider-Man PS4 game, we have to connect.
That was a lot of fun.
They're one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm down.
Yeah, all right. CD Projekt, send us a check.
With like a little hacking sort of adventure in it, with like little text boxes. Yeah, I'm down.
That would be cool.
Man, I would hate to be releasing a game around the time that Cyberpunk's releasing.
Oh, man.
Like,
It's like releasing a mid-tier like popcorn movie when The Force Awakens was about to come out.
Yeah, you're just like
just move, man. Just push it. Bring your game forward or push it back a few months.
yeah.
Because no one
give it some room.
Give it some room because when Cyberpunk drops, nobody's interested in anything else.
Just dropping the bomb.
It's kind of game. I'm booking my leave. I'm booking annual leave for when that game's out.
Well,
don't call me.
I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Death Stranding comes out in November. I'm going to play that all the way up until April when Cyberpunk comes out, and then that's it. After that, no life, no games, no TV shows, no movies.
We don't need any more games after Cyberpunk comes out.
No, that's it. That's the last game I ever.
We'll temporarily have to rename the show.
Yeah, the Cyberpunk show.
the Tuesday Cyberpunk review.
The Cyber review. Also, I heard that CD Projekt Red has said that Cyberpunk 2077 will not have a morality system, which...
That's interesting.
If you've listened to the show before, you know I fucking love the fact that they don't have that shit because I hate morality systems, or at least I hate their implementation in most games.
Life isn't always clear cut that way.
Well, I think that's the good thing about it being based on a pen and paper RPG.
Yeah,
is that your choices matter in terms of how NPCs will react to you.
Yeah.
But the world doesn't care.
Exactly. I don't want to be, when I'm playing a game, I don't want to be judged for how I play.
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
The ending will remain the ending.
Exactly. Like obviously, if you're a player as a black hat or a white hat, like it might change a few things. But yeah, there's no like. Real
there's no like changing how someone random you've never met is going to react to you based on your previous decisions.
You won't be blocked. I mean, maybe you might be blocked off
depending on what you're doing,
but you won't lose content or you won't gain content depending on how you want to play the game, because
makes sense.
I want to play the game how I want to play it. I want to kill as many people as I want to kill. I'll do stealth if I want to. I don't want to be...
Yeah, no. It makes perfect sense for the property.
Yeah.
It's just like the way, it's like the way Deus Ex sort of handles things.
Do they not have a...
Nah, not really.
Okay.
You can approach situations differently, but there's no real morality system.
Because it's an RPG, like, this is a game where a morality system would make sense. But I feel like this game, like, it's set in a world that's about crime and the underworld and the grey...
It makes sense for the property that they shouldn't rely on that too heavily.
And especially like I always, like I've talked about in the past, like I don't like to be judged. I like to play the game how I want to play it, and I don't want to just...
You're not going to be judged in Night City, James.
No. I'm gonna have so many affairs with cybernetic androgynous
it's like just wait till we start playing the pen and paper game.
Man,
there's gonna be people,
we'll get into some weird shit.
There's gonna be people at CD Projekt offices going, nobody's completed the story yet. They're just too busy with their
they're all fucking robots,
the drugs and
they're all stuck in the hollow sex suites. Even though you're playing a video game, they're sending their characters into a...
all the characters are now just drug addicts and they have STDs.
Oh, this is the one thing I'm worried about, which I don't think we've talked about before. Australia's rating system for games is very, very touchy when it comes to drugs.
We'll just have to do a sneaky import.
And I know that all Cyberpunk world and games, but this game specifically has like stim drugs that you can take to...
I'm pretty sure GOG...
Yeah.
Good old games, at least for the PC version.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they will allow you to choose which version of the game you download.
I think we might have actually talked about this. I'm also sure that CD Projekt has such a good localization department. Because didn't they start off as a localization department for Polish games?
Well, good old
Polish translation.
I know the good old games localize and also improve other people's games.
But I think like CD Projekt, when they started, they were originally just a group of people who would import other games and translate them, localize them for Poland. But anyway, like I feel like making a game like this, they wouldn't risk sending... I mean, Australia might not be a huge market, but like we're a big Western market, I guess, or English-speaking market, I should say. I don't think they would risk it getting banned. And I'm pretty sure they would know of our ban-happy...
I'm going to be so pissed off. I don't want them to alter the game at all. I want the unfiltered experience.
Yeah,
I would just buy it. Realistically, I'd rather wait and just buy it from overseas.
We'll import it. That's not the problem. The problem is, it's like I don't want any censorship version at all. I don't even want the Australian rating system to contemplate that.
No. What's the point of having an R rating if we don't get to actually take advantage of having an R rating?
I'm sure we talked.
They made the R rating and just turned it into MA.
I'm sure we talked about this, but that's exactly what my fear was.
Do we need an X system where it's like you have to present?
But then the X will just become
I want an X
MAs,
system where I have to show my ID and I can buy whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, fuck it. Like
if I want a video game that's all about taking drugs and chainsawing innocent people, I should be able to purchase that game as long as I am old enough to do so.
Has the Australian government been on Steam lately?
All the porn games, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, PC is not...
Yeah.
Did you know technically...
With digital stuff, though, it's different. Like
it's different, but they're still technically
more.
beholden if they're selling it.
Yeah.
Did you know, until quite recently, all MMO games were banned in Australia?
Yeah, like World of Warcraft was illegal for years.
Yeah, because
online content can't be rated, and we can only play rated content.
That was funny. I remember when GTA 4 came out, and they had to, for the Australian version, they had to cut out the sort of, when you have sex with a hooker in your car, they had to cut out the animation of the sex. But then when the add-on came, the Lost and Damned expansion came out, because it was digital download, they couldn't rate it. So
it was banned, or they just put it back in?
No, so they didn't ban it, they just didn't rate it either. But then there's like full frontal male nudity in it, and I can't remember if the animation's in it, but like it's just there was no, so that was funny.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm optimistic because who wants to be the asshole who banned CD Projekt Red from releasing Cyberpunk?
They don't know games. They don't care about games.
You know what I mean?
The problem.
Do you remember we watched that that show?
This movie is not
yet rated, and all the best directors, because of their street cred, got treated leniently.
Kind of leniently, give or take.
This is like CD Projekt is like that top shit who gets
that's what I'm saying.
More leniently.
I feel like they have a localization team that it's like they're not going to compromise, but they also know how to slip through the loopholes and the...
I hope so. Look, at the end of the day, even if it does get the ban hammer, we're still going to play it.
Import that shit.
Import it. I'm sure CD Projekt will enable a sneaky on GOG.
Yeah, like you said, CD Projekt, who owns GOG, who's like a digital streaming, digital distribution platform for games. Like, I'm sure they'll be like, look, here's a link. Don't tell the Australian government. Or like... I think it would be good to... I feel like most people who would have to import the game would not be opposed to donating a little bit to CD Projekt's sort of...
Yeah.
If they're not getting the money directly because the sale is through a roundabout way, I would go on...
I think what they do, especially for PC versions, is they'll sell you the modified game, and then CD Projekt will come out and be like, and here's a patch you can download.
Here's an unofficial patch,
or an official patch.
Yeah.
So you've still bought the modified game, but then they just patch all the other crap back in. That's what companies have done in the past.
Yeah, but see, because I'm going to get on Xbox, so
that might be a bit more of a struggle. That's more of an import situation.
I'm going to import 10 copies. And if 9 of them get stopped at the border, no, they don't really stop games.
Nah,
there's not a.
It's not. That's not really a restricted item as such.
Yeah.
Technically,
I think technically it's. Yeah.
But they have bigger things to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, well, apparently they don't because they bother us. Well, who was it? Was it EA or one of those evil companies who was like, it's not loot boxes, they're surprise mechanics.
We talked about this on Sunrise Arcade the other week, where
it was like people were like, well, if they're surprise mechanics, then pirating the game should be surprise purchase
ultimate
or something.
Surprise.
Yeah, like surprise.
Specifically, they compared it to a Kinder Surprise egg. They're just like Kinder Surprise eggs. Well, it's like, no, with a Kinder Surprise, you get the chocolate and you get a toy of a guaranteed value in a small set. Yeah. With your loot boxes, especially EA being FIFA Ultimate Packs, you buy actual characters with actual stats, non-cosmetic, game-modifying, enhancing characters. Yeah. It's not the fucking same.
When your huge, like, corporation is saying, no, it's perfectly ethical...
Or as Donald says, very legal, very cool.
Very cool. Like, you're a James Bond villain. At that point, you are like the worst corporation or person in the world. Like
it's very ethical.
You are a cartoonish villain. It surprised me. It's very ethical.
Well, you know what else is ethical morally?
Yeah,
pirating your games.
Exactly. Yeah. We're out of time. Oh, did you want to say something?
No, it's all good. I was just going to continue whinging about EA.
Yeah, no, fuck EA. Fuck Konami, fuck EA, fuck Activision.
Hashtag loot boxes are gambling.
Hashtag God bless CD Projekt. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Rate, review, and subscribe to the Tuesday Review on iTunes. Be sure to like our Facebook page, the Tuesday Review Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU. If you work for a Hollywood studio, you know, we can help you out with some ideas. Follow me on Instagram at Channel Drifter. I post every time I watch a movie, so I leave a little thought. And, you know, there's a lot of movies I watch that I don't get to talk about on the show. And you can find all our previous episodes on your favorite podcasting app. Listen to Alan and Jake's show Sunrise Arcade, where they talk about video games like we've been doing, and Nathan's also a guest frequently on that show. And listen to Maddie J's show Car Talk, TORQUE, which is all automotive discussion and a lot of shit talk. So you can find both those on your regular podcasting app or just Google it. Yeah, that's it from us. Thank you very much. Stay sticky and adios, cousins.